Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be covering the Hindu, and we'll look at the headlines first, then we'll go to the editorials. Okay, let's see if there are any important editorial in the headlines. Firstly, Supreme Court is hearing pleas on the electoral registration aspect of Bihar elections. Yesterday we have discussed this. If there is any development, we will see. Nothing important here. Um, the usual ongoing negotiations about how much tariff Trump is going to impose. No update there also. So let's not discuss that. Myanmar ethnic crisis drives 4,000 Chin people to Mizoram. Who are these Chin people? Like usually you will see concept of refugees. In today's editorial also we will see one aspect of that. We will get back to that. But note down who are Chin people. You might get MCQs in prelims. Prelims MCQs are possible on refugees. There are many refugees who are in news. Okay, refugee concept. What is the meaning of the word refugee? What is internally displaced people? We will see that today. Okay, but this is what you need to know. Yes, almost all the articles today are important. This is important, this is important, and the concept of One Health, this is also important. Okay, let's begin. We will begin with, okay, which of the two articles are more interesting to wake you up? Read the headlines and tell me. Warm up. We will begin with either this or this. You pick. Second one. That explains why this is more important. That's why I'll start with this. Okay? Fostering a commitment to stop maternal deaths. How many of you started by hearting this SDGs? Can you tell me what is the first SDG? Is it poverty or no poverty? Second one, zero hunger. Third one, good health and well-being. Fourth one, over. See, it is like the graph is falling like this as we move from the first. Enthusiasm levels as we move towards further SDGs. Anyway, coming back, maternal deaths is a very important issue. India in 2025 is still witnessing maternal deaths. If women are dying in pregnancy, what is the state of development in India? The most common facility that we are expecting in health is having access to at least those facilities which can prevent what is preventable deaths, for example. So, this article writer, who is a public health consultant from Kerala, talks about what are the problems, why do we witness maternal deaths, why are pregnant women dying in pregnancy. Here, he categorizes the entire country into three different states. What are the three different states? In normal language, good performers, average, poor. For the poor category, there is the name given Empowered Action Group. Then you have southern states, and then you have other states. So south states are relatively better. In others, there are good performing states also, but overall as a block, the southern performing states are better. This is the funda. Okay. Among the southern states, you have Kerala as the best state, role model. On a lot of issues pertaining to healthcare, Kerala is leading. In a lot of social indicators also, Kerala is leading. So this article tries to explain what we should be picking up from Kerala, why things are going wrong in other states, not this other category states, all the other states, and what we can do to overcome them. Here in the article, he starts with delineating the key factors which will put pregnant women in danger. Three main factors are there. First one is that there is a delay. Usually when labor pain starts, there is an inertia in many households. They don't recognize the urgency to take the women to the hospital. That is point number one. The most important problem is that the delay, the inertia from the family because of lack of awareness. That's point number one. Point number two, it can be as simple as transportation. You don't have an ambulance. Sometimes if people are living on islands, they don't have boats to take the woman to the nearest hospital. There are not enough hospitals on islands, which is another dangerous situation. Third delay is the most important one, and the article says that this is an unpardonable one because from patient side, the first two problems are overcome and they come to the hospital. There is no inertia from the family, there is no transportation problem. They visit the hospital, and at the hospital there is no one to attend. And this is unacceptable. Because, see, in the first two situations, it's okay. It is the mistake of the patient. But as a responsible institution of the state, where you are supposed to give health care, which is one of the most basic thing that you can expect from a government, if that is not happening, it's not okay. Why is it not happening? Funds, functions, functionaries, same problem, governance problem. You do not have adequate funds. You do not have enough doctors, and the hospitals are understaffed. You do not have necessary legally enforceable laws if the healthcare is not delivered, which leads to administrative apathy in some cases. Usually, if you go and notice many government hospitals, they are already overburdened. To be very fair to the doctors at government hospitals, they are very overburdened. The shift timings are inhuman. The pressure on doctors at government hospitals is very high, unlike popular belief that government doctors don't care. It's actually very a high pressure situation, and that should not be the case. So these are the three main reasons. Right. Now we have many schemes at each level. At primary healthcare level, you have ASHA workers, okay, Anganwadi workers, who mobilize people, families, so that the first problem where inertia is there, that problem is not there. We have been so far very successful because we have created an incentive mechanism. If ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, they bring people to the hospital, they get some monetary incentive, some compensation. Okay. Next, with respect to the transportation problem, states have done their bit. For example, consider the case of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. We have this 108 ambulance, okay, which is almost universally accessible. That problem is also solved. But what about the third problem? Lack of actual treatment, which is the most important part. We don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough beds, hospital beds. And even after that, after pregnancy, we need care. There is lack of awareness. And even during pregnancy and after pregnancy also, there are some reasons as to why deaths happen. The first reason is bleeding. Once the baby is out, there is profuse bleeding, and we need as many as 5 liters of blood sometimes. 5 units of blood, if I'm not wrong. And if you don't get that 5 units of blood on time, and on top of that, if the pregnant woman is already having anemia, that is iron deficiency, loss of blood will only make it worse. This is the first reason for hospital level deaths. Second one, you can see here, the biggest killer is bleeding after delivery. The next emergency is obstructed labor. Okay, so sometimes babies don't come out in the way they are supposed to, like there is obstruction in the labor, and we need the skill of the doctor to take over in that situation. And many times actual deliveries are done by interns, PG students or interns. They may not have the necessary skill. So senior doctor should rush, because it's quite possible that the head of the department of gynecology or whoever is obstetrics, whoever is handling that department, they are the ones who will be the most skillful in those situations. And if they don't get access to, if they don't get timely access to that kind of doctors, patients in that time, that's also one dangerous situation. Third issue is hypertensive disorders. See, usually during pregnancy, BP can shoot up. And recently you are also witnessing a trend of gestational diabetes, meaning pregnant women, the number of people who are facing this issue, gestational diabetes, pregnant women are seeing an upward trend in diabetes just before pregnancy, during pregnancy. Sometimes it will wane off. After childbirth is there, diabetes will go away. But in many cases, it will not. So, let's say, for example, if the mother is having high diabetes, there is a danger that whatever fluid is there in the womb, that will be absorbed more by the baby, and this will increase the weight of the baby, which will again cause the problem number 2, obstruction. And even for this, you need to manage. During that time, there is high blood pressure, so you need to manage BP properly. Even for that, you need skilled professionals. That is sometimes not the case. All of this is linked to the lifestyle we are having. Previously, you did not have so many women having all these issues. The present lifestyle, where there is high stress, even in the rural areas, the lifestyle, the food habits, everything has changed, which is increasing the probability of maternal deaths even in families that are having access to good health care. There is multiple factor convergence leading to this maternal death, and all of those factors should be addressed. So since this is a very specific article, you have to know about schemes like Janani Suraksha Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan. What are these two schemes which are meant for maternal health care? You need to understand. In this article, the specialist dealing with this case, I'm just summing up the entire article. The specialist dealing with this case has explained the importance of dealing with maternal mortality rate, divided the entire country into 3 groups: Empowered Action Group, South, and others. Within that, since he is from Kerala, who is a public health consultant and the specialist in public health policy, he spoke about the Kerala model. We did not get to that part yet. He basically discussed 3 problems as to broadly linking why deaths can happen, and within the third problem there are 3 more reasons why at the hospital you will see the probability of failure of healthcare delivery leading to maternal mortality, right? And finally, the article writer talks about the Kerala model. So there are some technical details which may not be important for us. But if you have to, if you're not a doctor, these are not important for you. Because if you're a doctor, you might get asked questions on this in your interview stage. For everyone else, there is something called the Kerala model of confidential review. Confidential review. Kerala model of confidential review of maternal deaths. This part. Okay? You need to take this in your notes because you are not going to get this kind of case studies in your regular material. You may or may not get. So please note this down. Confidential review, and make it as a best case, best practice case study. Replicate it across different states. There are some technical details which may not be important for us, which may not we may not appreciate it completely because it talks about how the medical procedures respect to uterus, how we have to use cannula, etc. You don't need that level of detailing if you're not a doctor. Move forward from that. Okay, this is the first article. Link this to the schemes of Indian government and link this to SDGs. In Niti Aayog, you will have a document called SDG mapping, wherein 169 targets of SDGs are linked to the schemes of the government. So this mapping is important for you to understand on what metrics you will get questions in prelims and mains. It's probably updated way back in 2018, if I'm not wrong, but those targets don't change, right? Till 2030 the targets won't change. If there are any new schemes that came up, it will be added in that document, but the flagship schemes remain. Go to Niti Aayog, download this SDG mapping document and use it. Okay, that is article number 1. Now, rising seas, shifting lives, and a test of democratic values. What is the point of this article? You have some places like Honnavar in Karnataka. It's a beautiful place. Just Google this place, Honnavar. You will see how beautiful that place is. Then there are some other places which are mentioned here. Satabaya in Odisha. There are many places in Karnataka, Kerala, all the coastal states, even Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu, Satabaya in Odisha. All these places are witnessing sea level rise and submergence of those lands. Effects of climate change. In GS1 you will see this topic called impact of climate change on geographical locations or geography basically. You can include this sea level rise and submergence of the places there as a part of that, how geography is changing. Okay, it will talk about the geographical processes, which is not the point discussed in this. This is more about the impact, which comes under GS2 and GS3. Whenever you are talking about the impact of climate change, you can link this to GS2, vulnerable sections. Okay, this GS2 vulnerable sections can also have an impact on IR, international relations. Once it is happening within the country, it will have an impact on demography. Right. demography, IR and vulnerable sections. 3 different areas. Now, what is this article talking about? Here you will see SDG 8.7. In both the articles today, these SDGs are important. So please go back and start by hearting your SDGs. You have to use them in your conclusions. You have to use them in your intros. It gives you a framework of thought. It gives you a structure to your thought. Otherwise, all this welfare, social welfare and governance based articles will be very scattered. You will not have a structure. So all our governance needs should be mapped to the targets of SDGs. That structure will help you organize your notes. For example, if there are some targets within our SDGs, there are some, let's say for example, SDG number 8. We are talking about 8.7. There must be 7 points at least, right? 7 different themes on which you are supposed to study about governance. So, in governance, what are we focusing on? We are focusing on systems, how those systems are built, how much funds do you need, what are the functions or the legal provisions of those systems or the organizations. Systems or organizations. Funds, functions and functionaries. Are we having enough skilled people to deal with this problem? This is the fundamental framework I want you to adopt for all the governance related issues. Okay? Now, what are we talking about here? We are talking about the concept of internally displaced people or climate refugees. Let's understand that concept. What do you mean by internally displaced people? See, for example, we are talking about these places like Satabaya or Honavar. People from those communities, like say for example small fishing villages, they are uprooted from those places, they are displaced. Now as a result, they do not have a permanent address, which is a prerequisite for voting card. Essentially, even if you are a part of this country, you are becoming stateless because of this internal displacement. And we do not have a rights based approach to handle this problem. Absence of rights based. This is the major problem. Absence of rights based approach. Why is this the case? Because the existing legal framework do not even define what do you mean by internal displacement. Take a look at all the present provisions like the disaster management. It doesn't define the word displacement. And even if it does, the fix suggested, the solution suggested for this problem is that of relief. Meaning you will get temporary relief in terms of food and temporary shelter. Imagine a situation where you have a flood. Let's say you stay in a comfortable 3 BHK or a 4 BHK, and in one situation entire house is wiped off. Now you are taken to a shelter like a place where all people are pushed in a single roomless shelter roof. It's like a garage. All the people are asked to sleep there. You will be given one common toilet, basic food. Imagine from there till here, for no mistake of yours. Imagine the pain of that family. And you have no right to ask the government, why am I living in a place like this? What mistake have I done? And that's the reason why rights-based approach is very important in this situation. What are the reasons that this article suggests that we should be focusing on? For example, the environmental impact assessment, EIA, which is another syllabus pointer in your GS3, it doesn't consider the social impact. The social impact of environmental clearance is given here. Industrial and infrastructure projects like the Sagarmala, Bharatmala, the coastal regulation zones, and the projects in the coastal areas, all of them are flouting the norms of what is considered to be environmentally sustainable. And you don't have a rights-based approach. What are the legal provisions? Environmental Protection Act, Disaster Management Act. None of them talk about a right. They only talk about relief. If something has gone wrong, we will give you food and shelter, and that is also the prerogative of the government. It is not mandatory. It may or may not give. You do not even have a right to ask food. There is no accountability mechanism. It's a chaotic situation. And this will lead to the phenomenon of statelessness. Statelessness. You are internally displaced. You are still the citizen of this country, but you are almost like a refugee, where you do not have any right. And that's a situation we need to address. This is the gist of this article. So what are the legal lacunae in climate displacement? We are talking about how Article 21, the rights-based approach, is not considered in either Disaster Management Act or Environmental Protection Act, or even the workers who are, affected by this. None of the labor codes have any security aspect in this. So go back and read this paragraph again, because it's very important. Very, very important, this article. This article also talks about the National Action Plan on Climate Change. This is the flagship umbrella scheme to handle climate change. The coordinating ministries, of course, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. But having said that, there are 8 submissions under this. Okay? What are the 8 plans or 8 programs as a part of this National Action Plan on Climate Change? Is environment a state list, union list, or concurrent list? Concurrent list. I'll tell you a backstory so that you don't forget. In 1972, something called the Earth Summit happened. Is it Earth Summit? What happened in 1972? In terms of, guys who wrote prelims, I want an answer from you. UN conference on something. What is the exact name? What happened in 1972 and where did it happen in respect of environment? At least tell me the place. Go to your environment basic textbook. Some conference with respect to environment happened. What is the conference? Go back and check. Do the homework. It should be on your fingertips. The name should be exactly remembered. Please go back and check. Where did it happen? What happened in that year? Okay. 20 years later, something else happened in 1992. Which of the two are considered to be Earth Summit? This one or this one? Second one. So what is the first one? UN conference on? Right? Is this it? Sure? Go back and check. Where? Homework for today. Environmental legislations and UN conferences. It begins with 1972. Okay? Chalo. So, what began in 1972 is environment which was hitherto a state list, was in the state list. When we're talking about environment, the predominant focus has been on forests only. Before 1972, forests were a source of enormous wealth for the Britishers. And state level forest officers were extremely powerful. And the tribals were not educated enough to seek rights. And they didn't have any by that way. Not until 2006. Till the Forest Rights Act came into the picture. Tribals didn't have any authority or say. So, there was no stopping for these forest level officers, and the wealth was plundered. There's a lot of corruption. In 1972, Indira Gandhi, our Prime Minister back then, attended this conference. One of the first South Asian leaders to become a voice on the issue of environment. After that conference, we've had this transfer of environment from the state list to the concurrent list through legislation. As a result, center had more say, authority in environmental conservation. What began in 1972 followed with a list of reforms. We have had the 1986 Environmental Protection Act. Then we have had Forest Conservation Policy, 2006 Forest Rights Act. Legislations like CAMPA, compensatory afforestation. What is this CAF? Compensatory afforestation fund. It's still very controversial. Why? Because you cut down trees in Uttarakhand and plant trees in Tamil Nadu. How does it even make sense? And that too, some invasive alien species. Not everything can be fixed by money. Nature is not something that you can fix with money, that is invented by people. Which is again, ironically, is a piece of paper that is produced by cutting down the same trees that they are planting. Unscientific legislations. Anyway, coming back. Something that started in 1972 has, accentuated this apathy, state apathy towards environment. We have had multiple interventions to stop this environmental degradation, but to no avail. You even have the environmental impact assessment. Go back and revise all these basics and then see how the sea level rise, etc., is creating a problem of internally displaced people. Okay, let's go one step forward and talk about the commonalities between this internally displaced people and refugees. Both are having some shared concerns. What are the shared concerns? How should we look at them? What is the solution? In the democratic framework of Indian Constitution, this is the takeaway. See, when you're talking about this concept of IDPs or refugee, what is the shared concern? What is common between these two people? State apathy. The legal framework, the legal definition might be different, but the impact it has on the lives of the people is similar. Okay, in this context, you need to understand two things. These people do not have a policy. Even these people do not have policy in India. What are the legal cases associated with refugees? There is a principle called non-refoulement. Okay, I posted on the Telegram channel about this. What are the cases with respect to refugees? How should India treat its refugees? What did Supreme Court say on this aspect of non-refoulement? How do you see commonalities between IDPs and refugees? Both of them have shared concern in the state that state doesn't care enough. How to fix that problem? This is the focus of this article. Okay. I'm just extending the argument and I've posted it on the Telegram channel again. Hindu highlights. Go and check. I connected it back to the old articles on environmental refugees and the whole concept of refugees. Chalo. The free fall of moral leadership. I'll sum up the entire article in 2 lines. Nothing new to take away. The concept of moral courage. Moral courage. What do you mean by this? What is courage? Courage means having the strength to take an action even when you are scared. What do you mean by moral courage? You are gaining that strength because of your moral values, of your internal compass which says, okay, this is right thing, this is wrong thing. This is an article that is very useful in ethics. The importance of moral courage in creating a rules-based world order. Okay? Importance of moral courage in creating a rules-based world order. What is the context of this article? See, right now the world is seeing many conflicts. On one hand, you have Russia-Ukraine war happening. On the other, you have the conflict in West Asia, Israel, Iran, Hamas, whole Palestine issue. Nobody is at peace. And even across the globe, the only predominant philosophy that is taking the center stage is the philosophy of realpolitik. What do you mean by realpolitik? Simply put, whatever is useful to themselves, they are focusing on that. Strategic autonomy. So the article writer says that this was not the case prior to this. India stood up for its values, and that has been the source of its soft power diplomacy. So India should take a stance. This is what the article writer says. So article writer quotes Gandhi, where you have to walk the talk. You have to actually not just talk about Gandhi as a symbolic gesture, but also in reality address the problems. How we have to use Gandhi as a solution to address the problems that this world is seeing. And the lack of that kind of a leadership is the moral crisis that this world is facing today. And we need the concept of moral courage to overcome that and create a leadership that will try to settle issues amicably through dialogue, negotiation and action, DNA approach. Okay, that is the gist of this article. Nothing huge to take away from that. It's common sense. But the concept of moral courage is explained. Use that in your ethics answers. Fine. See, the headline itself is good enough. Women MSMEs still struggle for credit despite schemes. Why? Usual social barriers, lack of literacy, awareness, patriarchal structures, same thing. And there is data to prove that. Okay? That's all. Remaking the nuclear order in West Asia. Very lengthy article, we discussed multiple times. I'll just tell you briefly what is the focus. It's a repetition, nothing new to take away. We have had Israel, Iran, US and other stakeholders in the West Asia. Iran says, I want nuclear power. Initially for civilian needs, later Now it is saying that we need it for security as a deterrence. Israel is maintaining, a strategic position where it is very ambiguous. It is neither condemning nor confirming that they have nuclear weapons. It is not trying to make it very clear and vocal, because there might be two explanations for this. One explanation is that they don't have enough nuclear weapons. Two, they are scared that there will be international pressure on Israel. So in either of the cases they are not confirming. But what is Israel's stance towards Iran? No question of allowing nuclear materials anywhere in Iran, not even for civilian purpose. Why? Because Israel is very skeptical about the intention of the government. No matter which government comes, even if the present government falls down, new one comes in, they don't want nuclear power anywhere near them. In 2015, you have had this JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, from which in 2018 Donald Trump walked out. And this has been a inflection point where Iran is frustrated and says, okay, we will carry forward with our nuclear program for deterrence because we are not feeling confident. This is the present debate. It's like two kids fighting about what they want. Rest of the article is about how it will impact different countries. Pretty much straightforward. This one is about the Outer Space Treaty. So he is trying to come up with a national defense initiative called the Global Dome, which is a 175 billion space-based missile shield. So it's like Iron Dome of Israel defense system. But the problem is there is something called the Outer Space Treaty, where it prohibits placing nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction in the orbit. So I'm directly using this article. I'm reading out this article primarily because you will get prelims questions from this. Please read this article verbatim. What are the other things that you have to focus on? In India's case, we have S-400 system, which is again given by Russia. What is Iron Dome? What are the indigenous defense systems created by DRDO? These are the things that you have to prepare for prelims. This is an ongoing developing issue. We will discuss this in detail when the issue is developed enough. Again, it might be covered in Indian Express or some other article. Once that is covered, we will comprehensively discuss all the issues. Okay, that's it for today.